seeing as Dave is unable to goad anyone into coming to the microphone, we'll close public comment at 5:16. Next on the agenda, did any board members or the superintendent receive any public correspondence since we were last together?
I did not.
I've not either, so. Moving along then to committee updates. What committees have met?
Budget committee met. We went over warrant articles that are going to be proposed both from the school and from the town. The schools we're going to be running through tonight, so we'll get a good rundown on those. I don't have my notes with me on all of the town warrant articles, so I would encourage everybody here tonight and everybody who's watching on TV to also see the Town of Newmarket's website, just to review ahead of time what some of those warrant articles are, and also be on the lookout for communication coming from the town manager's office about just kind of what the deeper meaning is behind some of the verbiage that you'll see on the warrant articles and what it means for us.
Thanks, Jeff. Gary?
The negotiating team met with the Teachers Association, and we just continue to negotiate.
Thank you.
And the district PD committee met to talk about professional development days in January and March. And I continued as an educator just to be really impressed about the amount of forethought and work that goes into making sure that all classroom teachers, UAs, case managers, paraprofessionals all have meaningful professional development on those work days. So,
Thank you. It's not a school district committee, but I'll just mention quickly that the Charter Commission had one hopefully final, very quick meeting the other night to address something that the Attorney General's office took exception to that actually we didn't change. It was in the charter before, but just to approve that, so that'll go on the warrant along with all the other charter changes, form to be determined by the council. They get to decide how they go on the warrant, so everyone can keep an eye out for that. Any board member comments? Kathy?
I've been doing my civic duty and listening to state level politics, hearings, legislative hearings and such, and I've handed you out some information about the open enrollment, which I believe is on the agenda for Todd's going to speak to that, but it might be good to have a few things to put some context into what's happening. Yesterday at the House full session, another open enrollment bill was passed, HB 709, and it is about, oh, I'm squeaking. It is about being a property owner in a district, and your child would be able to attend that school, whether or not you are a property owner or you have rentals, you have a business, or any other kind of property holdings in that community. That did pass the House. I think it goes to the Finance Committee now, but that's another one to keep a watch on. The other one that came through was about health from the State Board of Education and the Physical Education Teacher Certification, 507.16. What is being proposed is that the requirement for a physical education teacher to hold a bachelor's degree be changed to either an associate's degree or no degree at all, and you could just come out of high school and be a physical education teacher. I did listen to that testimony today. It is broadcast over Zoom, and there were quite a few people that showed up to testify against it. I didn't hear one person. As we know, our local former school board member, Phil Nazaro, is on that committee, so I added his email, if you can read it if you need to, to this little handout, as well as if you have any testimony you want to send to the entire committee, you can send it to rulemaking@doe.nh.gov before January 15th. So that's what I've been doing with my time.
We appreciate you for doing it. It's probably not the most fun way to spend an evening, but.
Well, I went out for a walk, but then I said, oh, I'm going to go out for a walk to get a little, fresh air, and then I listened to the education meeting while I was walking, so I don't know.
Thank you.
But I enjoy listening, and I try to keep my sense of humor, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So thank you for the time.
Any other board member comments? All right, so moving on into the meat of the agenda. Sawyer, what do you have for us this week?
Thank you. I don't have a ton for you guys today. So to start off with sports, girls basketball right now is 7-0. Over holiday break, they won the Oyster River Bobcat Holiday Classic, which is a pretty big basketball tournament with Division I and Division II schools. And then
they beat Division I.
Sorry?
Then they beat the Division I team.
Yeah, they beat all those teams, which is really awesome.
I saw the game, it was great.
On the 7th, they won against, yesterday they won against Franklin, 56-20, and then their next game is the 12th, this Saturday, at Epping at 5:30. Boys basketball is also 7-0 right now. They placed 6th in the Bobcat Holiday Classic, and their last game was also yesterday, where they won 62-35 against Franklin. And then their next game is also this Saturday, the 12th, that's Monday, at Epping at 7. For track, we had a meet this past Sunday at Phillips Exeter Academy, and then we have another meet this upcoming Sunday at University of Southern Maine. Hockey, right now their record is 0-3-1. Their last game was yesterday against Timberlane, where they tied 1-1, and then their next game is the 10th against Co-Brown in Dover. Swim, they had a meet on the 4th at UNH. A few swimmers have reached state qualifying times. Annika Benson has reached state qualifying time in the 50, 100, 200, and 500 free, 100 back, and 100 breaststroke.
Wow.
And then Aiden Wu has reached state qualifying time in the 100-meter breaststroke. And then their next meet is the 10th at 11:40 at UNH. Ms. Cole would like to thank everyone who participated in and donated to the holiday shopping, where, if you didn't know, students could go in the library and pick out books, puzzles, games for free and give them as gifts over Christmas, which I thought was really awesome. Thank you, Dr. Korman, for getting the microwave for the lunchroom. And then tomorrow after school, there's going to be a 6th grade movie night hosted by Interact Club from 2:30 to 4:30.
Great.
All good? Thank you.
Sorry for interrupting you, but that game was so much fun to watch. It was really, the girls were really very impressive. Loved it.
I have to admit, I did not notice the microwave until you pointed it out.
Oh.
That's slick. All right, Todd, the superintendent report.
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, I will start with the basketball tournament, because as many may know, Oyster River was my alma mater. I worked there for 36 years, so anytime I get to go to the Oyster River gym and watch Newmarket beat Oyster River, it feels really good. So I watched them on the Friday of a break, talked to Coach Edgerly, and he goes, yeah, actually, the Oyster River team was the hardest one, even though they beat 2 D1 schools. He said the Oyster River team was the stronger one that they beat. So anyway, it was good. Congratulations to our girls. Very impressive team. Welcome everybody back to school, and Happy New Year, 2026. My biggest accomplishment so far is I have not written the wrong date yet on anything I've signed, so I know it's 2026. It usually takes me a few weeks, but right from day one, I was on track. A couple of things I did want to kind of follow up on that Kathy was talking about. There are a couple of laws that I want to just highlight too. January 7th, this is a little bit of a civics lesson, is what they call convening day in the state legislature. That is the first day of the new session. So all of the things we've been talking about that might be going to be presented got kind of thrown out there on the table. So there's a lot out there. A handful that are certainly worthy of note to us. One in particular, which it has been proposed before, but it could have positive ramifications here in Newmarket. HB 366 is addressing building aid, and it specifically includes a provision to fund schools that took bond debt during the moratorium from the state, which, for those, that's education speak for Newmarket, because we took a significant bond when the state was not giving aid. Were that to pass, it could mean revenue to the Newmarket School District, so that's great. And I didn't see the sponsor of it, but I guarantee Mike Cahill is behind
Michael
it. So,
Cahill, yeah.
so anyway, it's something really, really great to see. Another one I found kind of interesting, because I didn't think it was a problem, but there is a bill being discussed, HB 360, that says that public schools cannot diagnose or perform surgery. So I don't know, has having surgery performed in the school not been a
Andy, do you
problem?
have anything you need to share with us?
Apparently, it is something we need to protect ourselves against, so I just want to acknowledge it.
Is that what's going on?
I think it passed today.
I'm in favor of not performing surgery in schools, so I guess that's good. I think Kathy mentioned this one, the HB 709 that is looking to make it possible for a person who owns property in a town to be able to go to school there, just so you understand the differential there. Historically, school attendance has been attached to residency. It's not about home ownership, it's about where do you live. And so this would allow someone to, buy an acre of land in a town that they want their kid to go to school, and then they could go to school there. In my opinion, it's a bit of an end around on how to make the open enrollment thing happen regardless. It's becoming a little more gray what residency means. So anyway, so that's out there, and that did move forward. And then one coming out of the Senate that was worth pointing out, and we'll probably end up talking about this in policy at some point, but it's a more strict interpretation of the requirements of schools to make it very clear to parents and community members if they want to challenge any course selection materials or books or things like that. So people who are not in favor of it often refer to it as the book banning bill, but it's really about, it kind of goes to the parental bill of rights and trying to require districts to be more proactive in spelling that out. So we'll clearly have some conversation about that at some point. Moving away from legislation, because that's literally hundreds of pieces of legislation were brought forward on the 7th. I did want to just kind of piggyback off what Jeff said. Obviously, the public hearing was a Monday night. And as Jeff pointed out, the committee will be revisiting our warrant on Monday night and obviously providing their recommendations on our warrant. My perspective was it went pretty well and things were pretty well received. The last thing I wanted to mention, and actually it ties into, Bryant will be talking about the warrant that he's going to present, or that we are going to propose tonight for you to approve and to vote on. We did get a piece of information from the Department of Ed. They had done some recalculating of our cost per pupil. And so what the net result is that our cost per pupil that we had been quoting during budget development is actually about $500 higher than we had thought. Now, to be clear, that has no bearing on the bottom line. It's a mathematical computation. And initially I was questioning whether it was an accurate calculation, and then when we kind of trace the data back, it does appear to be accurate. Basically, just so you know, the way cost per pupil is calculated, they take the total number of school days, the total number of kids, and then each kid, depending on their level of attendance and or participation in the program over the course of the year, those three numbers go together to form one number, which is our average daily membership, ADM. So to give you an idea of what that means, like if all kids come to school 100% of the time from day one until the end, our enrollment matches our ADM, because every kid is one and it matches. What happened last year was our enrollment declined a little bit from the previous year, so it was down 13 students, and then we had a slightly lower attendance at the secondary level. And so what that meant was when they recalculated our ADM, it was lower than we had anticipated it to be, and that's what led to it. So the reason why I emphasize this is the first year that state law requires us to put the cost per pupil on the ballot. And so it's important that people understand it. And I will also, when I talk to the Budget Committee again on Monday night, I'll re-explain that, because clearly we have been talking about the previous number in our cost comparisons. So it's important that people understand that that wasn't a change on our part, it was a change from the Department of Ed. So, and that is all I have to say.
Thank you. Questions for Todd before we move on?
I guess just so I kind of understand the ADM calculation, what I'm hearing from you is that some more kids, other than the enrollment reduction, more kids this year were either sick or played hooky or for some other reason weren't in school more than we had understood before.
Yeah, I think there was a slightly higher rate of absenteeism and or long-term absences, illnesses, that kind of thing. I mean, it's, obviously, I would love all kids to 100% come to school every day. Come to school, okay? Come. But there are certainly, there's an element that is understandable that kids get sick and so forth. So typically, our attendance rate is about 95%. That's typically what, across the district, that's where we are, and usually that's where we end up. And we had a slightly lower than that, about 93.5% at the high school level, and that, when you do the math, it just reduces the number. So between having 13 fewer kids and a slightly higher rate of absenteeism, are basically the enrollment number that gets divided into the total expenses was smaller, which means the number went
So
up.
whereas most people would say, this is the number of kids you have enrolled in your school, and this is the total cost, and divide it, the state, for some reason,
Correct. They make the
excludes
distinction.
kids who are out sick because they technically weren't there. at
Average
some point
daily
in time.
membership.
Yeah.
So that's what they call it. They
Wow,
use average
interesting.
daily
Okay.
membership. So it's a very rare day, by the way, that 100% of our kids across all, in fact, I've never experienced that. I mean,
2026?
it could be. It could be.
New year.
2026
Let's
is the
go
year.
for it.
I mean, typically, I look at the attendance on a regular basis. It's pretty normal to have, 4 or 5% absent on any given day, ranging from illness, appointments, things like that. And I think usually nobody pays attention to it because it doesn't have a negative impact on a calculation, but it just it was enough that it did impact our average per pupil
So
cost.
if you arbitrarily want to get our cost per pupil down, send your kid to school.
Absolutely. Send your kids to school every day, and our cost per pupil will go down. That's just
Kind of a
that's the
ridiculous
reality.
measurement, sorry.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we have substitute students.
We could
There
do
you
that.
go. Maybe that's
There
what we
go.
should do, spend our money on substitute students. There you go.
Waiting
All
list
right,
of kids.
thank you. I just want to make sure I understood that.
I've never realized that.
Yes.
That's exactly, thank you, I just learned something new, how they calculate it, and
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah, I mean,
It seems a little
generally,
weird.
the intention of it is like, if you have a kid that moves into your district at the half year, but goes to school for the whole rest of the year, they're effectively considered half when it comes to enrollment, because the other half of them was someplace else.
right.
And I know it sounds kind of ridiculous to divide, but that ultimately is what the intent is. But all of our attendance data is reported up to the state and analyzed, and there's all this fancy calculating going on, and they do ultimately come up with an ADM, and that's the number that's used for our cost per pupil. I want to emphasize to taxpayers, though, that has, the bottom line of the budget is still nothing has changed. It's just how many students you divided into that to create your cost per pupil.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd. We'll move on into our discussion items. The Principal Korman is going to tell us about the program of studies for next year's school year.
That's why everybody's here.
He's very popular.
Depends on the day. Good evening, everyone. What I have here for you this evening is the program of studies for 26, 27. Right there, we should catch that in it. But only for our current 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. We're going to talk about policy here in a little bit. We're going to run 2 separate tracks on this. And the reason for that is our current 8th graders are going to be held to a different standard than our current 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. Having some conversation with counseling, rather than try to run 2 things at the same time, we're going to run 2 separate tracks, so to speak. We're going to do course selection for all of our current 9, 10, and 11th graders before February break. We're going to meet with kids. We're going to get all that process in. We're going to have course selection, February break. Counseling's going to take a deep breath. And then I'm going to be back with you all probably mid-February before break to present to you a different program of studies specific for our 8th graders that is tailored to the new 306 changes that I'm going to talk about in policy. So what you have tonight is the program of studies, the original version, as we're calling it, for our current 9, 10, and 11, soon to be 10, 11, 12, with their course offerings there. You'll see me again in a month with a freshman version, if you will, for our current 8th graders that will highlight some of the necessary changes that we're going to talk about in policy here in a few minutes. Overall, as always with the program of studies, we try to offer a wide range of courses that historically have been popular and meet kids' needs. We are proposing adding 3 new courses. Global Studies is the first one. This is going to be a both freshman, you'll see this in the freshman POS here in a month, and our current our soon-to-be sophomores social studies requirement. This course is going to be brand new. This is a brand new from the ground up developed by our high school social studies team. Next year, as a means to kind of catch everyone up, both our sophomores and freshmen will be taking global studies because of our course sequencing and what we're going to propose to you with our social studies sequence with our freshmen. We're changing where traditional American history is. Global studies, as kind of the name implies, is more of a global look at conflicts and history of around the world. It's not geography, it is not Western Civ, it is not even a combination of the two. It's literally a brand new course built from the ground up by our high school. Unified Consumer Science was a big push. Kim Emery works phenomenal magic down there with all types of kids from all over the place, and she's noticed a strong pull, kind of influenced by our unified basketball team, of students who are in our life skills program really excelling with her, and really wanted to offer a really specific opportunity for them to work with her and some upperclassmen kind of doing the same model we do for athletics. We have identified students working with kind of mentors, working their way through. And then Anatomy and Phys. So currently we teach Anatomy and Phys over a 2-year cycle. There's, we take the body systems and divide them in half, and we teach half of them in 1 year, and then the next year we teach the other half. It's not a great model for continuity's sake. We've got some staff movement this year, and we're proposing teaching anatomy and physiology as one continuous course where you get everything so you can make the connections for all the systems. As a result, we're asking to retire Anatomy and Phys 2, beginning band, tech and society, and web development. Anatomy and Phys 2, as I kind of just explained. Beginning band, talking with Tony, he put that out there as an option for kids this year. You play one instrument, but you're really interested in picking up a new one. This is an opportunity to have a band opportunity for kids who do have a musical background, but picking up a new instrument, we just didn't have any interest this year from folks. And then Tech and Society and Web Development, through some staffing changes and consolidation, we're meeting those needs through a portfolio approach with our freshman seminar and our freshman courses. Also, they are not, historically have been under-enrolled, which is how we made some of those staffing decisions last year. Overall, it is, in my opinion, a really solid program of studies. We worked hard to put stuff into alternating years, as well as in some of the performing arts and arts programs, offering higher end courses combined with regular courses. For example, offering a section of Photo 1 with 15 kids, but we've got 7 kids or 6 kids that are interested in Photo 2. Rather than take up 2 sections for that, let's have one section of Photo 1 and have the Photo 2 kids come in there so we get one overall section of 23. Again, being more cognizant of our finances as well as our staffing needs. I will be remiss to say our counseling department was working very hard on this. We have a communication going out to 8th grade parents tomorrow, and the reason for that is if you are a parent and you have a junior and your junior is getting inundated with course selection, and here's all the material, and I have an assembly, and I'm meeting with my counselor, and you're the parent and going, okay, when's my 8th grader going to get it done? And your 8th grader's not going to get it done until March. So rather than deal with potential chaos, we're going to be proactive and front load it and say to our 8th grade parents, yes, we are doing course selection. Yours, here's the dates, here's the time, laying everything out. We're doing a course selection night like we always do. It's just going to be a little bit later because we are trying to, like I mentioned when we started, get the freshman, sophomore, and junior program of studies course selection process up, over, and done with, and then transitioning to that 8th grade post-February break. Juggling a lot of balls. We're keeping everybody happy. Does anyone have any questions? I'd be happy to do my best.
All right, seeing none, thank you. If you'd like to just stick around as
I'm not going anywhere. No, I'm not going anywhere.
I just want to say I was impressed with the amount of course offerings
Thank you.
that you have
Thank you.
put out here. I hadn't seen them before for a long time, so I'm very impressed. Thank you.
All right.
Why don't you just hang there, just in,
I will
because
just
the
hang
next
there.
item.
Yep, so the next item on the agenda is the second read of a policy that the Policy Commission advanced, draft policy IK, earning high school credit, achievement of competencies. This is a policy that we're basically bringing forward because it's now required by law but part of the reason that Andy will get into, that the 8th grade class this year has a different course selection process, as they're the first class that will fall under the requirements of the new state law. So, Andy, Todd, if you guys want to explain what it is.
Do you want to just give a quick synopsis of particularly the credit requirement changes that are taking place? The reason why, normally when it's a second read, we've already seen this, but because this is such a significant change, I thought it was worth just taking a minute in the agenda to review it.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, and actually Patty Wands is here too, I don't know if you wanted to step up and offer anything as well.
So as we just mentioned with the POS, our 8th graders are going to be in a whole new world, literally and figuratively. As some of the changes as a result of the 306 is we've got a credit change in terms of total graduation for our 8th grade. Currently, our 9, 10, 11 are going to need 24 to get a diploma. Our current 8th graders will need 26 to get a diploma. And that's the result of 4 new course offerings that are part of the legislative change that we're integrating into some courses. For example, one of the new exciting ones that gets everyone excited is called Logic and Rhetoric. There was a lot of questions. I will give Patty and her regional team a ton of work, a ton of kudos on this. The state admittedly comes out and says, we're not giving you a lot of guidance, good luck, which is always a great feeling. But we've had a lot of internal conversations on what is logic and rhetoric, where there were legitimate questions. Logic, is that a math course? What is that? We looked at some of the competencies identified in logic and rhetoric. We aligned it with what we're currently doing. What we're working on right now is identifying competencies within our English department, having some really in-depth conversations with our high school English folks. We've identified logic and rhetoric as an opportunity, for example, to be incorporated into both freshman and sophomore English. So from a student's perspective, you're going to do sophomore or freshman English, you're going to be successful. You're going to do sophomore English, you're going to be successful. At the end of that, we have to enter onto your transcript this extra half credit of logic and rhetoric because you've met the competencies for that course within those 2 other ones.
Just pass-fail.
As a pass-fail.
Yeah.
There are other courses, 3 other ones like that are 4 halves, obviously get you year 2, 24 plus 2 get you year 26. We made the really conscious decision administratively, we batted this around where and when to put these courses. There was conversation, do we stretch them out over 4 years? Do we try to put stuff on the back end, front end? After a lot of conversation, we really wanted to front load these in the event that kids try and sometimes they make mistakes and there's nothing worse than a second semester senior who's got a course hanging over them that they really don't want to take. And it's a struggle and you got to get them there and it's how are we going to do it? So we made a really conscious effort to take these courses and front load them as much as possible. Data analysis and statistics, another course that's going to be in that same ballgame. Looking at what we do currently in our freshman physical science and our sophomore biology course, we feel we really strongly meet that data analysis side of of those competencies. So, similar to logic and rhetoric, you'll take freshman physical science, you'll be successful. You'll take sophomore biology, you'll be successful. We'll then have to manually enter data analysis statistics for a pass at the end of your sophomore year because you completed those competencies during your freshman physical and your sophomore bio course. It's been a lot of work from everybody except our friends in Concord, because they're the ones that are saying just do it. It's going to be an adventure. I think we're in a really good spot. I can tell you, talking with other principals around the state, we are leaps and bounds ahead of, I would say, at least 50% of the state, if not more. People have kind of buried their head in the sand and said, oh, it'll go away, and I don't think that was the right approach, but that's someone else's problem. We're really excited to see these changes, and it's not just adding competencies, it's challenging teachers. What are you doing differently? How are we going to meet those needs? What are you teaching? How we get in there? And just this week and next week, every department in this building, 612 by content area, is meeting with Ellen Hume-Howard, who I've coined as the original thinker in competencies here in New Hampshire. She's absolutely wonderful. Thanks to Patty for the connection there through NHLI. Departments are meeting and working on their individual competencies so we can really answer the questions. What is this course about? How do we know what kids know? How do we know when they know it? And really start to work through that. So that's my 2 cents on IK. So.
Patty, did you want to add anything?
No, Andy, thank you. Just with regard to the thinking behind where are these courses placed through 9 through 12, because I belong to the Southeast Region Curriculum Group, we're such a collaborative group. I feel very fortunate, I know I've said that before, of the colleagues in the Southeast region, so that if one of our students should move to the Oyster River School District, it will be similar. We're about supporting our kids, not saying, well, oh gee, that's too bad. In this district, you have to wait till senior year to take it. This district, it's somewhere else. So we're really trying between Epping and SAU 16 here in Newmarket, Oyster River, that we're really trying to support one another, really to help our students. And the work I give, hats off to the teachers in our district who are doing this heavy lifting work of really looking at, when we think competencies, it's what are the students, when they learn this skill, how can they apply it to a real life situation? That's what I always say. That's when I know that you're competent, that you can apply what you've learned to a real life situation. And what's coming out of this work for Andy and his team and teachers is that they've developed a framework for every content area, every department, 6 through 12 in the school, will have this beautiful document. We are going to buy the LibGuide. Just telling you right now. It is just beautiful the way that it is organized. And as Ellen says to the teachers, I'm your secretary. Let me do all the typing and the organizing so that each department, and then we're being transparent. So this LibGuide, I know librarians or media specialists are used to it, but it has every department on it, and it's a link, and you click on it, and you can see English grade 9 competencies. You can see their learning progressions, or the standards, the learning progressions within the standards that they teach, and then what we call I can statements, which are basically the statements of if a student says, or if an adult says to a student, well, how do you know that you've learned this? Or if a student asks a teacher, I'm looking at Sawyer, well, how do I know if I'm successful? We talk about success criteria. And John Hattie from Australia, Dr. Hattie, he's done just so many years and years of research of how do kids know, how do teachers know, and how does a student know if they're successful for a particular, say, physics unit? Well, if you can answer this and you can demonstrate mastery of these, your success. You've met the successful criteria. And that's what we want our kids to know. It shouldn't be a secret. It's very transparent that when we're asking kids, hey, it's more than just tell me what you're working on. Oh, I'm doing this worksheet. No. Tell me what you're learning, where are you? And then they can look and they can see visually where they are in their learning. And that's, in a competency-based world, it's a learner-centered environment. And we meet kids where they're at, and we recognize our kids can be in different spaces of learning and different places of learning. So to me, it's really exciting. I just have such great admiration for Ellen Hume-Howard and her team, and she has a content area expert that accompanies her. For example, tomorrow morning, we're meeting with the math teachers, 6 through 12, and then we're also meeting with PE and health teachers. And she has a content expert for each of that. So I'm really excited about what's going to, the 306s propelled us to this place, but I think it's really exciting, and the fact that what's going to come out of it is some really amazing work. So
to put it in lay terms
Yeah.
that I can understand, basically, state legislation changed some of the things we were required to teach
By adding the word competencies.
by adding the word competencies and changing a few terms. And we decided to create a new program study for the 8th grade to implement those rather than create confusion for everybody else.
Yeah.
And we also used the opportunity to basically revamp how we know what we're teaching kids and what they're learning.
Yeah, so what came out of the IK policy is how do students achieve credit, including competencies? So I may give a student an assessment that I am assessing the skills of the standards that I'm teaching, but I'm also assessing competencies. And as Ellen says, we don't want to have too many competencies per department. I mean, it's just so hard to manage. So you might just have 2 or 3. Maybe she says 4 or 5 is like it, like that's it. Because we want the kids to understand it and so that it's more meaningful to them as well. So that's why it's the shift. And also in the 306s, as you can see in that policy, the kids who are freshmen in 2026, when they're juniors or seniors, with Learn Everywhere, which is also is acknowledged in that policy, that students can approach the principal with evidence of learning for a particular area. So it is upon us to ensure that we have a solid framework that Andy and his team can say, well, here are the competencies for this course. Here's what mastery looks like for this. And in order to achieve this credit, these are the standards and the expectations for that. And it's solid. It's not, oh, that looks good, sure, here's a credit. But like we truly have a framework in place. And I think that's what we're really excited about.
So to kind of just put this from a policy standpoint, so clearly these policies, IK and IKF, are sort of the first thing that the board needs to do to set in motion these changes that we need to do because law changed. And the policy committee knows that there's more policies coming. There's a number more that we're going to be looking at that are related. So there's more change to come. And clearly there is a lot of work being done at the building level to design a program of studies and with our teachers to be able to build this competency-based system we need to have so we can do all the things all these wonderful things they're talking about. So that's this is the first big step for the board to kind of head us down that road. So once this is adopted, we've met the minimum legal requirement to adopt the policy. Now we have to make it happen.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I believe we just covered IK and IKF
Yes,
in
they
that
were all-
section,
yep.
correct? All right. All right, so we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is going over the draft warrant articles for this year. Bryant, if you'll go through those, thank you.
Thank you. So later in the agenda, you all will be voting on the school district warrant articles. So in preparation for that, I'll walk you through the 8 warrant articles being proposed one more time. You only have to vote on actually 5 of them. And where needed, I'll provide some context and answer any remaining questions that you may have. So please refer to the draft warrant articles document that's attached to the agenda. And I just want to note that the warrant language has been vetted by our attorneys. It can be quite a mouthful the way it's written, mandated by the lawyer, so I do apologize for that. And just a public service announcement, a reminder that the first deliberative session will be on Saturday, January 31st at 10 a.m. at the Newmarket Junior Senior High School. And then the voting session will be on Tuesday, March 10th, and the polls are at the town hall. So what I'll plan to do is just go through each warrant article one by one and then pause for questions before moving on to the next, if that sounds all right. Okay, so Article 1 is to elect the school district officers. To choose the following school district officers: 1 school district moderator for a 1-year term, 1 school district clerk for a 1-year term, 1 school district treasurer for a 1-year term, and 1 school board member for a 3-year term. And this does not require a vote tonight. Any questions on that one?
Just a quick note, the filing period is January 21 through the 30th. So if you're interested in running for any of those offices, starting January 21, you can go to the town clerk's office and start the process.
Okay, so Article 2 is for the appropriation of the operating budget. And new this year is that we have to add a clause at the top of this warrant article because of legislation RSA 18975, so I'll just read that. It says, "The average cost per pupil for the preceding year as calculated in accordance with RSA 18975 1A is 24,106. English language proficiency is 67%, math proficiency 51%, science proficiency 48%. So Todd already talked about the cost per pupil, so I won't go over that. But any follow-up on or questions about that sort of initial clause? Okay, so then I'll just read the rest of the warrant. Shall the Newmarket School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set for therein, totaling $30,547,370. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $30,471,845, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Newmarket School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013-10-16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget. Majority ballot vote required. So the proposed budget amount you should be very familiar with by now, which is the same number that we've been quoting throughout the budget process, and it includes $400,000 in expected federal grants revenue. One thing you may notice is that the default budget is not that much lower than the proposed budget, and we had a similar situation last year. This is largely because the main drivers of the budget increase next year are related to contracts and other obligations mandated by law. For example, like the salary increases in the teacher CBA, the significant increases in the cost of providing health insurance, increased transportation costs, and some increased special education costs. Additionally, we actually decreased our operations budget by $146,000 next year. So many of the operational budget lines are actually higher in the default budget by reverting back to this current year's budget. There is a note at the end of Article 2, which I'll just read now. Warrant Article 2, the operating budget, does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. The total operating budget will be offset by estimated federal grants revenue of $400,000 and estimated $454,312 in local, state, and federal nutrition revenue, which is basically the food service expenditure, leaving a net budget of $29,693,058. The amount of $854,312 will not be raised by taxes. If passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 88 cents over the previous year's school tax rate of $13.96, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $14.84. If defeated, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of $83 over the previous year's school rate of $13.96, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $14.79. A couple things I did want to note about that is that the previous year's school tax rate of $13.96 is the final 2025 rate that was released by the DRA at the end of October. So this is the baseline that we're comparing the increase against. So two important reminders. First is that all these tax increases are estimates at this point. So we won't know for sure what the final numbers are until the 2026 tax rate is finalized, and that won't happen for 10 more months. It's also to remember that the baseline 2025 tax rate factors in the $482,000 that we return to the town at the end of fiscal year '25. So with that in mind, the calculation for the increase, which is at 88 cents, we're assuming that we will return $500,000 back to the town through the fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2026. And this is what we have been targeting all along, and the assumption that we've been using, when we have had our strategic discussions about trust funds, health insurance, et cetera. So I think that's an appropriate assumption in this case, and that the town will have that additional revenue from the fund balance at the end of this fiscal year. Otherwise, if you don't include that in that calculation, it'll appear to be a much larger increase. So that's Article 2. That's the big one. Any questions on that one?
I do have a question. I don't know if this is more directed towards Todd. I know that we have to have the proficiencies on there without any context. Are we allowed to say where those percentages came from?
Not on the ballot. We can certainly do educating. I can tell you, because you asked, let me go back up to the numbers. The 67% ELA score, the state average is 55, so we're 12% higher than state average. The math proficiency score, I believe, is 9% higher than state average, and the science proficiency score of 48 is 10% higher than state average. Patty, at our next meeting, is actually going to do a more comprehensive presentation on all of our assessment results, and I think at that point we can certainly hit some of the highlights. I do think this legislation is putting information front and center that is potentially not in context, that makes it hard for somebody to know what it means. The intent of this was to try to give people some metrics that you could measure success, but by themselves may not give that, so we will probably need to do more public discussion of that. While I'm on that subject, it's also important to note there's another bill called, that was passed called HB 1265 that requires the district to publish 10-year analysis of teacher salaries, administrator salaries, cost per pupil, and also post the salaries of the top paid people in the district. Spoiler alert, I have the highest salary, if everybody wants to know. But that has to be posted publicly, and it has to be done without context, so we will have to create that context in our messaging to the community.
I just wasn't sure if they could say per the New Hampshire SAS, or like that it's from one singular assessment.
We got legal advice, and this is what they told us was the way we needed to do it. We can certainly ask whether we want to specifically highlight that it's from SAS.
I don't think that would really benefit the voter in the voting booth at the time. I understand your point,
Yeah,
but I
but it's not
can't
an
imagine
average
the
of
voter's
multiple
going to look at that and
assessments, that it's
say,
one.
yeah, they're not going to.
It is a single, these are singular assessments from last year. So it's the aggregate of all of our kids in all grade levels doing an ELA, math, and science. So
I think the comparison to, I'm sorry, go ahead, please. I said, I think the comparison to or the state is probably more germane, and if that's something we can put around the polling station or something to have that awareness, or a handout or something, would probably be more beneficial. But I do get your point that you try to provide context.
Yeah.
And in that context, is this just the basic one-day tests that are given, or is this?
This is the standard SAS test
So
that is done every spring.
So it's one day in the life of the student?
Correct. Third through 8th grade and 11th grade all do it.
And it doesn't have any context about learning over time?
Correct. And that's why we make such an effort to keep sharing with you our iReady scores and other data points to make sure we're giving a broader perspective.
And that's only whatever percentage of the student came to school that day.
Correct.
Is there, and I am not being facetious, although it may sound that I am, they have sample tests from past questions and whatnot on the state SAS website. Is there an opportunity to have any of those available, just so that the average adult could see that most of us probably would fall either well within that percentage or lower?
I mean, there's any number of things we can consider doing, but you're right, that information is publicly available. Yep.
I did have a question about the notes section. Perhaps someone can recall, but it seems different than we previously had done the notes section. I don't recall it talking about specific amounts. I thought it was like the rate of how much the tax rate would go up percentage-wise. But I don't remember it talking about the specific dollar amounts. Is that normal?
No, it's been there.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I should
the
start
ones-
paying attention to these? Is that what you
No, it's always there. The dollar symbol might be throwing it off because it's 88, so the 88 cents is what it, per thousand, it's not $88, and 83 cents is the difference for the.
Yeah, maybe that's what's throwing me off. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe we get rid of the dollar sign, because that does kind of throw it off, even though I think technically that's the correct way to do it.
No, I wouldn't change it for me. It seemed different, so I wanted to ask.
I believe that's required by the charter too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to
Well, although
clarify.
the school district's not subject to the town charter, but it's, to make it consistent with the town ballot, we should do it.
So just to clarify for the public's knowledge, is that the state legislature passed a bill last year that requires warrant articles to include the proficiency scores for reading, math, science, and these proficiency scores are just from one test, one day during the year.
It's the state proficiency scores, which is based on a single
Single test.
assessment. Yes, that is correct. And it is, the law specifically says it must be printed on the ballot prior to the operating budget. So it has to give people that metric.
And that's where the education has to come through, is that it's one day in the life of the student.
Mhm.
And they come in and who knows what's happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are certainly lots of ways
And-
to look at a student's success, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Which, when you hear all the conversation about competencies and all of that,
Right.
clearly, that's what we're trying to do, is to look at a much broader
Right,
measure of
yeah.
success. Yep.
Okay, let's move on then.
Do those tests with them.
All right, so Article 3 is on the para-tutor contract, which I'll read now. Shall the district vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Newmarket School Board and the Newmarket Support Staff Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year. So the first year, 26-27, estimated increase $134,043. 27-28, estimated increase $92,135. 28-29, estimated increase of $76,155. In the final year, 29-2030, estimated increase of $69,675. It goes on to say, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $134,043 for the upcoming fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreements over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. The estimated tax impact of this article is 8 cents, and this requires a vote. So we've had separate discussions on what is being paid for with these increases, and I won't repeat them now unless people have any further questions on them.
All right.
Okay, so Article 4 is related to Article 3. Shall the district, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost items only? And this one does not require a vote tonight. Any questions on Article 4?
So that would mean that if this was not passed, we would go back and do a whole special meeting for the public to further explain what the,
It allows us to.
Okay.
If we don't ask, we'd have to hold a special meeting to ask and then hold another meeting. So yeah, it provides that. Every time we have a collective bargaining agreement, that we put that on there just to protect us in the event that it does
Okay.
not succeed, because we need to have a contract and pay our employees.
right, okay, thank
Okay, so moving on, Article 5 and 6 are related to the trust funds. Article 5, shall the district vote to raise and appropriate $150,000 to be added to the Insurance and Benefits Expendable Trust Fund previously established for the purpose of unanticipated insurance and employee benefits expenses, and further to authorize the use of this amount from the June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised by taxation. This one requires a vote. So I think we've also discussed this a lot. Hopefully it's clear at this point what this one is for and why it's important. Any further questions on this one?
No.
Okay, Article 6, shall the district vote to raise and appropriate $100,000 to be added to the School Improvement Capital Reserve Fund previously established for the purpose of improving, expanding, maintaining, renovating, furnishing, and equipping school buildings. There's a note related to this one. This recommendation is in accordance with the Newmarket School District Capital Improvement Plan 2025 to 2043, approved by the Newmarket School Board on August 1st, 2024. The estimated tax impact of this article is 6 cents. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. And then Article 7 is on the length of the terms for the school district officers. It says, are you in favor of changing the terms of the school moderator, school district clerk, and school district treasurer from 1 to 2 years, beginning with the terms of the school moderator, school district clerk, and school district treasurer to be elected at next year's regular school district meeting? No amount to be raised by taxation. This one requires a vote tonight. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, so if anyone's wondering what this is just to align the terms of the school district moderator, clerk, and treasurer with the town side, because in at least 2 of those cases, it's the same person filling both offices, and they've kindly asked us to make this adjustment so that they don't have to fill out the form every year.
Did we confirm the town clerk is every 2 years?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Thank
And
you.
actually, I told her about it, and she smiled happily, like, oh, good.
All right.
Okay, so the last one, Article 8, to transact any business which may legally come before this meeting. This one does not require a vote tonight.
Yeah, for context, this article has never been invoked in the entire time that I've gone to town meetings, so
Okay, that's it, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we did want to put a quick discussion on the board's agenda of a warrant article, not this year, but likely in a future year, around open enrollment. It's something that some districts in the state are doing this year. I think the ones that particularly feel most vulnerable to the one district in the state that's already declared itself an open enrollment district. Again, this may be something that a future board wants to put in place depending on how this unfolds, but Todd, if you can give us a little context on that one.
I mean, so as I think Kathy pointed out, there's a number of pieces of legislation looking to, change and or expand the concept of open enrollment. The current concept of open enrollment that exists requires a school to have, in order to declare yourself an open enrollment school, you must have a vote to create an open enrollment school. And what that allows you to do is to accept students from other schools under the open enrollment clause. The school districts that are talking about doing it this year are actually all centered around the Prospect Mountain school system, which is the one school system where open enrollment has been going on for a few years.
And Franklin is the other one.
In Franklin, yeah. But people are interpreting the current law to be one way to protect yourself from losing students to open enrollment is to pass open enrollment warrant article to make yourself an open enrollment school, so you can then try to regulate the comings and goings of students, because all of us need to develop policies on our capacities, but, and it's, to be very honest, it's kind of dubious legal ground as to whether this would actually carry any weight or not. But the school districts that are proposing it this year are thinking if they put it to a vote of their community and their community becomes an open enrollment school, they could then pass a policy that says no more than X number of kids can leave. So they're trying to control the exiting as well as the entrancing, because the language is just vague enough. My belief is that the people who are supporting open enrollment want open enrollment because they want all kids to have choice. And for a school district to say, I'm sorry, I know you want to go someplace else, but you're the sixth and we only allow 5, so sorry you can't. I think that's going to be a hard place to hold in an environment where that is happening. But it is what those school districts are going to attempt to do. And there was I think there's an article in the Concord Monitor about it on Monday, kind of talking about it. Yeah. So again, it's definitely something we need to start thinking about. But I don't believe all of the Seacoast region schools, the Southeast group, we've had many conversations about it, and there's nobody in the Southeast region that is planning to move forward with it. We try to be very much in sync with each other so that you don't, because the minute one school does it, it's sort of a domino effect, like it could change it. So right now, nobody is doing it in the Southeast. The only ones that are really talking about it are around Prospect Mountain, Kearsarge, and Franklin. Yeah.
In Hanover, they also are putting on an article with no one can leave and no one can come in.
Yeah.
That seems to be the,
Yeah.
and then they've got the border towns as well, that they cross over to Vermont.
Right.
And so that's putting more mud in the water. You know, how do you take a Vermont student and there's more questions than answers.
Right.
Any questions or comments from the board?
And this piece that I handed out, it does come from me personally. It's all new to Todd too, but having listened to it quite a bit. There's one thing about this law that I think a lot of people are missing, is that if the receiving district, and Todd, you can correct me if this is wrong, can charge the sending district no less than 80% of the tuition rate of that, of the per pupil cost. A lot of people say it's 80%, but it is, as the law is written, it is no less than 80%. So if you want to go to Oyster River, they could come over and charge us 100% of their total. And it does mess up budgets.
Yeah, but it is debatable whether the sending district would be responsible for the amount above 80. There's a
Okay.
lot of debate in terms of what authority a receiving district has to insist on that. So 80% has been the standard, but you're right, they can set the rate more than that, but will districts actually pay it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the question.
And so anyway, it did pass the House last year, and then the corresponding one that came in yesterday was that 709 one. So it's been interesting to hear the testimonies.
As always, banger of a job by our legislature writing these laws. Anything else on the open enrollment? All right. Next up, Dave is going to tell us about how we're going to get the roof replaced. A roof replaced, not the whole thing.
2 roofs. Again, the 2 roofs are at the high school. I just want to give some context. I was, to be honest with you, disappointed. I had more than half a dozen companies come out for the RFP walkthrough, and we received 1 bid. So I contacted a number of the companies. One company, my secretary sent up the email to automatically send a half hour before the deadline, and it didn't send. And I said, you can send it 6 months before the deadline. Not after, but they'd already missed the deadline. Another company, and again, I don't want to use their names because I don't want to disparage any companies in a public meeting. The gentleman who did the estimating retired, and I guess he didn't get yours done. So, I'd love to hear, oh, we didn't want to work, oh, it's too big a job, oh, it's too small a job, but no, it was these very strange reasons. Luckily, the bid we received from Academy Roofing was right in line with the estimate given by the company that did the original site assessment. So they're, just because we got one bid, they're not gouging us, it's not. And Academy Roofing is out of Ringe, New Hampshire, and when I was at the Jaffrey Ringe School District, I worked with them, and they were great to work with. They did fine work. So I'm going to recommend that we award the bid to Academy Roofing, and we replace 2 more roofs.
Questions from the board? So on a square foot basis, is this price fairly consistent with what we paid this past summer for the sections we had done?
Yes. And again, both of them were right in line with the estimates provided by the original site assessment company.
Okay, thank you. All right, hearing no questions from the board, we can move along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda, budget communications. So we'd put this on just so we could start talking and strategizing about, we've done a little bit of it already, but how we want to explain all of this to the voting public, what we think is going to resonate and help people understand what they're voting on. So I don't know that we had a particular setup in mind for this. We just wanted to put some time on the agenda for everyone to throw out ideas and talk about it. And that said, I will get out of the way and.
Just to, things that are already in the works, there are things that we've done in the past. Ellen is working on the flyer that is like a trifold flyer that will have the summary of the warrant articles. We also are working with Dave Cartoonan, the gentleman who helped us make those promotional videos last year that will allow us to, and Tim helped us quite a bit last year, putting them out sort of in short vignettes so that they were readily in the public eye. And actually, they got quite a bit of viewership. I do think it's worth having a conversation, Lonnie, your question about like giving context to some of these things. We might want to think about do we want to put out more information about our performance results and so forth that are more easily digestible for people so that they're out there, just those kind of things. And certainly Patty and I can certainly work together to come up with some summary documents that might be easy to understand for the community. But other than that, are there any other things you guys are thinking about?
I'm not sure necessarily what it would look like, but when I was looking at the agenda and this item, I was thinking back to what Gary had talked about in the spring of last year and what the school does for the seniors. And so, both of my children are at the elementary school, and there are a number of teachers who just participate in an unbelievable number of things. And like going back to the spaghetti supper and the number of staff and teachers that were there, I was thinking, is there some way to highlight a few staff members? I'm even thinking that Brenda Collins, I think my life might fall apart in terms of school if she wasn't so understanding of all the comings and goings and communicating to, even if you had their photos and just, kind of a list of some of the things that those people do, Nancy Miller, both Nancy Millers, Brenda Collins, some of the people at the middle and high school, some of the, paraeducators that I've met that go out of their way to go above and beyond, so that when we're looking at all these numbers and why it costs this, that there's also the people behind it. We appreciate so much what our school system does for our students, but this is the why. We won't necessarily have all those things if we don't continue as a community to support the people who do it.
We do have a dramatically underutilized thing on our website where we profile
Yes,
staff.
it's
And if Christina
from
Cochran, Christina Cochran's pretty new, but it was a long time between when the previous one. But certainly there's an opportunity that we could start doing a more aggressive job. And I can certainly work with the IT people to see if we can't get more profiles of staff kind of in that revolving menu at the bottom. And certainly, if there are photos and so forth, maybe we could post them someplace.
Or even just like I don't know, a myriad of photos of the things that are offered, some photos of this media center that is unbelievable, and the kids participating in the STEM activities, some photos of the spaghetti supper and these other things that are not at so many
Some of the things
schools.
that's been presented in past meetings, just here, people have I never had any idea of how much goes on. And
With
for those,
SALT and student council and the performing arts and
what students, and didn't they have a survey last year that came out about postgraduate, what the kids who have graduated have gone on to?
Actually, I should have mentioned that in my comments. That survey went out, and there's actually been quite a significant response. I'm sure we'll have Andy and Jody and his department come in and summarize that data at some point when we've got enough of it. But it's a lot of good information being shared.
Yeah.
other than that, my only 2 cents is that the bond payment on the pie chart is a very vibrant, bold color that leaves no question as to the permanence of that amount.
Yep.
Other thoughts, comments, suggestions?
I would just say that any PR we can do would be beneficial to a lot of our residents like me who don't have kids in school or who are just new to the community and are wondering what their tax dollars are going for. But every time I get a presentation from the kids, I just kind of get goosebumps thinking, wow, this is pretty good. And then just watching the girls' basketball team was.
I would throw, I am scheduled to speak to the Moody Point Homeowners Association with Steve Fournier. I think we're scheduled the first week of March prior to the vote.
Make sure you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. It's a Zoom meeting, so it's pretty. But if there are any other groups that people think would be worthy of reaching out to offer, I mean, if people want to hear from us about the school district budget and things, I'm happy to go and talk to people about it. It's just hard to identify the audiences that, I had the reverse impact when I was in Oyster River. We had a building project, and I did a lot of these kind of things, and it got to the point where people saw me coming, they ran the other way, because he's going to talk about the building project again. I don't want to create that environment, but I'm happy to go and talk to any groups, and if anybody out there has a local community group, whatever they want to invite, and I know Steve Fournier would probably do the same thing. We're happy to do the outreach.
Are there any senior groups? Senior citizen, the senior groups? Because they're the ones that have a lot of, to me, they would have a lot of questions about just why the taxes are going up.
The Moody Point group may fall into that category as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what groups meet at like that. I know there are several community groups that meet at the library, but
I think we need to think about the community groups that are also our voters. What that demographic probably skews higher in age, I would agree.
Thank you for
And-
saying it that way.
Higher in wisdom.
That's questionable.
Yeah. And people may think this pessimistic. I consider it realistic, but I feel like most voters don't give it a heck of a lot of thought until they're in the voting booth, behind the curtain, looking at something, reading it. So what's the closest point to that activity that we can get them connecting some dots, especially with the way the warrant's written this year as far as the budget and the percentage of achievement. And that's my thought is like whether we do a handout outside to say like, hey, this is what it is. Here's the warrant. here's the percentage of Newmarket, here's the percentage of the state, or we just have posters around the polling place, as long as we're not polling, right, as long as we're not trying to solicit.
Right.
Electioneering is the word.
Electioneering, thank you very much. As long as we're not electioneering, it might be permissible, and whether or not people are in line long enough to even look at those, I don't know. I know when I go in the morning, there's
Booth
usually enough.
outside?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I go in the morning, 7 a.m., there's usually enough time, to sit and read something, but sometimes you go in and you just whisk right through, so you may not see,
And how many people read it?
yeah, so.
Is there time during the deliberative session to, is that something you'll,
Actually, Betty
Comment?
and I already talked about this, too. I'm going to work into my explanations of them. I will include some information on it. I don't want to go too far down, in a different direction
Yeah.
than what's intended, but because it's included in the language of the article, I think it's entirely appropriate to have a couple of slides that explain the school district's performance and so forth.
Dan and I could probably name 20 of the 25 people who will be at the deliberative session at this point. And it's always the same folks, so, yeah.
well, I went last year, that was a new one.
Well, so yeah, that's why you're of the 20.
Did you go?
So my head is in two different places. One, if we could build enthusiasm among people who don't normally come out on voting day. I think Lonnie's ideas, Kathy's ideas speak strongly to that in a very, very good year, I mean a very good year, we get for just a town election 15% turnout, maybe not even that. You're not, it's a very narrow group of folks who come out regularly, so anything even around the margins that you can do to add to that probably has an outsized effect. On the other end of it, I mean, I think the most common not well-informed critique that I hear is just this perception that, well, there must be something inefficient going on.
Yeah.
We must be wasting money somewhere. Oh, okay, well, explain to me why you feel that. Well, I don't know, we just must be. So anything contextually we can provide, and we've all sat there, at least Gary and I have, and Lonnie almost as long. We've sat through these discussions. We spend a lot of time squeezing these nickels until they scream to try to, we've done a lot of work to rationalize class sizes. We've done a lot of work to make an appeal to some of the kids who would otherwise just go to SST because they don't know what else to do. We've done, a lot of work, Erica in her group, to really start addressing some of the special education needs earlier so they don't spiral into expensive out-of-district placements in later years that they come along. I mean, there is a massive amount of stuff that we've done to keep things, where they are, so we're not $2 on the tax rate worse. And that will be cold comfort to someone who's, as a gentleman who came to the budget meeting the other night pointed out, he's lived here for 10 years. The taxes on his property have doubled. I can't argue with him. I've had the same experience in the time that I've lived here. But the idea that there must be something wasteful or even sinister that underlies that is way more pervasive than you'd think among people who arguably should be able to reason this out better than that and understand that, well, what else in your life hasn't doubled in cost in the past 10 years?
And do we want, speaking to that, do we want to add how much cost shifting has gone from the state to?
Right where I was going next.
You were, because actually there was somebody from some district that actually did, he gave the whole formula of how we did it, how just reducing the retirement, what do you want to say?
Contribution for.
The retirement, the state's portion of the retirement system's
Yep.
financials has increased the budgets over time, because now the local districts are picking up that retirement, whereas maybe in 2010, I think it was about, the state did 30% of it, and now they're doing none of it. So we're picking up a 30% state obligation on our local.
Yeah, what people, I mean, we pay just under 20% of a pensioned employee's salary every year to the state pension system. So like if you pay a teacher, let's say $50,000, we're paying $10,000 to the retirement system. So that is a real factor. Not that, going back when I first started teaching, there were years when districts paid nothing.
Yeah, same here, yeah.
Because the retirement system was being invested better and more effectively. But yeah, it's quite burdensome, and it's kind of lost in the shuffle of all the costs that we have to absorb.
And we're getting more downshifted every single year. So I think that it's really important to, as the discussions are going online, to differentiate what should be a local obligation and what should be a state obligation, but the state is not doing their part of it.
I think it's context. I don't know
Right.
that you win many people over by talking about what, I mean, if you want to be super smug about that, well, come on, haven't you noticed the benefits of the corporate business tax reduction? Isn't that making your life, in the interest of dividends, isn't that making your life better every
Well, they
day?
lost $180,000, million dollars.
I'm not sure that's how you win friends and influence people by it's important context. I don't know that,
You got to put it in a way that will,
yeah, I don't know that that convinces anybody to vote differently than what they would. I think start with the basics. If somebody's dead set on voting against this, they're going to do that, no matter what we say. You're looking for the ones who are persuadable, and I think the ones who are persuadable broadly fall into two camps. It's the people who had no intention of showing up, but because they feel some enthusiasm and connection to something, they, decide to make the drive down to town hall when they get done with work that day. And the second group is the ones who are, at a low level conspiracy pilled, and you can kind of walk them back from the ledge a little bit. And, no, there's not actually a conspiracy here. In fact, the costs are being scrutinized extensively and controlled as aggressively as the means we have available to us, which are limited by the fact that the state continues to reduce what they're ponying up while having done nothing to reduce the mandates that we operate under, and in fact, continuing to increase them with silly things like, with
Test
things that
scores.
we were already doing, but now you're going to make us formally adopt policy around it.
Yeah, a couple other things to point out. We zero-base budget every year. We don't make assumptions based on previous year's budget. If the positions aren't filled, and we've been able to operate, we look at, do we even need that position? And we've eliminated, I'm guessing, probably 12 para positions over the last 4 years or something. Yeah, there's so much that has been done.
the health costs.
Or certainly attempts to rein that in.
What's that?
Attempts to rein in health costs, yes.
But also the,
Acknowledgement that it's out of our control.
Right,
though.
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
a
that's it.
cost that we had to eat,
Yeah, there's no conspiracy here. There's no man behind the curtain, and there's no lack of trying to control these things. They're just, many of them are beyond our control, and I know that's cold comfort, but it's the reality. And do you want the young people in this town educated or not? Because if you do, then that costs money. And we do what we can to control it.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit of a soapbox, but people don't realize that by educating people, it costs us less money down the road, right? I mean, like I've always said, a full day pre-K would probably save us, 4X in future costs, and people just don't realize that.
Oh, yeah, you remember the fight over full-day kindergarten, which now everybody looks at as just what do you mean you didn't used to have full-day kindergarten? Well, we didn't.
Yeah.
And the year that we voted it in, that was one of the ugliest school board meetings I've ever been to in my life. People acted like the world was going to end because we did this, and now you can't imagine life any other way. All right.
Something else that might go hand in hand with this is educating people of the importance of their vote, not only in these town elections, town votes, town warrant articles, but also at the state level and at the national level, because that's where a lot of these policies get set that roll down on us. And so making sure that they're taking the time to vet all of their votes just as carefully as they're vetting this one that they might feel strongly about, that the voting booth. That would only benefit them and all of us, I think, in the long run. That's part of our civic duty, right?
Quite true.
That's right. Put that very well.
All right. Anybody else have any magic bullets hiding that they've not yet fired?
Nope.
All right. So next on our agenda, and by the way, to the young folks who are here for civics, you've certainly proven that your civic engagement at this point. So
At 8:30 they can leave, is that what you're? No. Most people have left by now.
if
so.
there is someplace else you need to be, I know a guy, he'll put in a good word for you with Miss McGilvery, so, feel free to leave when you need to leave.
I do want to say it's fun to see you guys come.
Be at 100% at school tomorrow.
Yep.
There you go.
And come to school. It helps our per pupil costs immensely.
You're saving us money,
That's
fictional
right,
money.
every day matters.
All right, next on the agenda, we wanted to take some time and have a discussion. There are a lot of outside groups who make use of our school buildings evenings, weekends, over the summer, and we welcome those groups. They particularly the community groups. I know some of the rec sports make a lot of use of the gym here and at the elementary school, other community groups. But we did want to take some time and just want to make sure the board is giving clear guidance to the administration about potentially groups that are not of the Newmarket community or not completely of the Newmarket community. We have one group who has been using the building on weekends for a while, and I think we came into it with the understanding that this was a temporary arrangement until they were able to come up with a permanent home for their activities.
Since I asked this to be on the agenda, do you want me to speak briefly to it?
Please.
Yeah, so specifically, there's a church group that uses the facilities, and just to be clear, this is in no way an issue with separation of church and state, but they're not here during school. When students are here, we don't display any material from them. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no conflict with church and state. This is strictly a matter of, whether as an organization that, we let nonprofits use this, we don't charge them, which is, I think, appropriate. It's a town facility. But at what point do you start saying, well, this isn't really appropriate to be kind of a permanent home for your organization, but yet some organizations, it is a permanent home, like, for instance, rec basketball. And where do we draw the line? I mean, to me, that's all students, so that's kind of a very clear, delineation, as well as the fact that we're the people in town who have the basketball hoops. So, but yeah, at some point, do we need to start thinking, well, okay, it's been 2 years, you've been welcome, but at some point, we don't want this to be considered a permanent solution for people. Right. Or do we, as a board, I suppose?
If I could just briefly talk about policy, just to we do have pretty well-written policy around facilities use that defines the notion of nonprofit versus for-profit. So clearly nonprofits, local nonprofits, typically their fees are waived. But we also have sort of a hierarchy of use, and certainly organizations that, obviously school-related things get priority all the time. So no matter who wants to use it, if we have a school organization or entity that wants to use facilities, whoever is asking to use the facility is bumped and the school gets it. The next layer of priority, we get into organizations that serve youth. And so certainly when you talk about the rec basketball and so forth, clearly the mission of serving youth is what schools are about. It's also what the rec is about. So therefore, that's the next layer of priority. You made reference that a church group is a nonprofit group with community roots, but they're not necessarily a group that serves youth. So certainly there is a place to be able to make a distinction there. The other thing to keep in mind is we have to be very careful about separation of church and state and being clear with that. So obviously, the fact that we have a group that has a religious aspect to it, that can't be a reason that you don't allow them access. However, the notion of a permanent home versus a temporary, or that is sort of the breaking point. And like you, we entered into allowing them to use the facility as a temporary home while they pursued other options. And certainly my understanding, and Dave Riley and I meet with Pastor Tim on a regular basis and check in about where things are at. And certainly their intention is to have their own facility, and they are actively working to it. But the definition of temporary has shifted from, 6 months, a year to, okay, what does it mean? So anyway, that's sort of the context. I think our policies are pretty good at giving us the capacity to make the distinction. I think the question is, do we want to make that distinction and say this can't be your permanent home, therefore find.
Was there any signed contract or anything?
We do it on an event-by-event basis. Dave, you want to just come up real quick and just, because obviously Dave Riley manages all this stuff. So can you just briefly talk about the process of an outside group using the facility?
Sure, we have a facilities use form that they complete. That then gets approved by the principal of that school. They're verifying that the space is available for that time. It then comes to me, I approve it. I'm verifying that I have the staff to support that event, so set up, breakdown, people unlocking doors, that sort of thing. We've been meeting, I think, roughly quarterly with the Mercy Church to discuss, hey, how are we doing, what we're doing to support them, what they could do to make our lives easier. The relationship has been, very nice. I discussed with Mr. Allen, I can't come up with a cost. Is there a monetary cost to the district? Not really. What we do after lunch is we move all the tables out and we clean this floor. On Friday, we set it up as a theater as opposed to setting up as a cafeteria. So it's not really an impact. And then Dwayne, who's here on weekends, flips it back to a cafeteria for us. But he would be here anyway. So there's no real, I was trying to come up, what's the monetary cost to the district? And it is, if it's anything, it's minimal. They've been good partners.
So you're really talking lighting is the only, cost you could probably even attribute to them, I guess. Because the heat's going to be on anyways.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Custodial staff's going to be here anyways, so.
And we're high efficiency LED lights,
Yeah,
so
so
I
you're
mean,
not-
that
yeah.
cost is minimum.
Yeah.
And then they have made donations.
Yeah, I think it's certainly worthy, and they have done many times. They've donated particularly to pay off lunch debts and so forth. And so there's been significant contribution to charities that support our kids. They donate jackets, they donate school supplies, things of that sort, yeah.
I guess
Go ahead, please.
my only thought would be not about the cost, but more about setting a precedent in the sense of, if there's another group and they happen to be of a different religious affiliation and they are not given the same, however long extended temporary time, does that then become that, somebody or a group feels that they weren't given the same opportunities because of the affiliation or because of something? Because we've set the precedent of temporary could mean up to
True.
this many years.
And I guess I would wonder, like, so temporary, they're looking for somewhere else. Are they saving their pennies to build somewhere? Or are they trying to find a building that may be big enough for them? Because saving to build something, unless they got some endowment or something, I would think would be many, many years, whereas trying to find the right other building, maybe 2 months, maybe 6
Right.
months.
I mean, again, Dave and I meet with Pastor Tim on a regular basis, and he would probably be happy to come in and talk with the board if you guys would like to have a conversation with him. They do have a fairly active fundraising drive, and it's not a small amount of money that they've raised. It's a good chunk of money that they're hoping to purchase a piece of land and be able to build some point in the near future. What that means, like, how long did it take to come up with the project to renovate our schools? You're talking a decade or more. It's hard to know what that translates into.
It's not going to be 6 months.
I have a question, just framing wise. Are we discussing right now this particular group using the
Yes.
space, or the generality of?
Well, I think both, right? I think there's the policy, which we've agreed to, and if the policy committee wanted to look at it again, they could. This particular group happens to be the group that's using it as a long-term, semi-permanent solution.
Right. The
And
reason I was
to Lonnie's
asking-
point, would we be setting a precedent for other people?
Right,
other groups?
well, that's why I was asking. So would it make sense from a policy standpoint to maybe add an addendum to the existing one, saying something like, temporary use engagements must be reevaluated yearly, or, whatever, at whatever intervals, by policy. It's not like just by vibes or feeling or anything, to make sure that both sides still feel that the use is appropriate, right? And so it's,
I'm not, tell me if I'm reading too much into this. I sort of feel like we're doing that already.
Well, certainly the intent of our quarterly meetings is to be reminding them that
right.
You-
Well,
If it
I only
makes,
mean, that should be
Yeah.
the cover for the way that we can say, yes, we've evaluated this periodically, we found that, by whatever criteria are important at the time that we were evaluating, that it was still a correct use. I feel like that should cover us, and, especially if we have the building users willing to come in and talk to us about how they're using the space and what their plans are going forward. I don't know.
I don't have any concerns about them using it and their treatment of it and what it's costing us. I just get concerned when, like at what point do we need to say, okay, it's really not meant to be permanent, and having used it for 3 years feels like it's become permanent.
I like the idea that a yearly evaluation is a little bit more strict than like a check-in reminder. It feels like it's kind of like, okay.
But
What
if we were
progress have
gonna-
we made since last year? Like, where are
But
we at?
if we were going to do that, we
Like,
would need
what's
to
our
have some,
rubric?
we would have to have some kind of rubric in the policy to say, like, an organization that shouldn't be using it as permanently.
I don't know if we have to have the rubric in policy. It would just be
Well-
like, it would have to, because it would have
But
to
it-
be based on any individual engagement.
But I think there's certain things you could put in, like, a group using facilities for kids can use it for whatever amount of time they need, right? Maybe a group that is nonprofit and uses it to serve the community, but not entirely kids and not entirely the Newmarket community, maybe yearly has a review, and we should, aim for that relationship to probably end within a year if possible, or extend it if they are actively working towards something, and we'll have a new facility within a year or two. But at some point, you need to put something in policy, otherwise you can't enforce, right?
I guess I'm struggling, the more I think about it, what are we missing that we don't have at the moment? We have a policy that prioritizes uses, as a function of how much they relate to really what the core educational mission of the district is. We have, periodic meetings with the principals of these groups, so both sides are free to voice any discomfort that they're feeling about anything. you know, if somebody else came up with some other use for this space on a Sunday that was higher, according to our prioritization, that, you know, that would be that, and the options for this group would be to pick a different time or find a different space.
And that has happened a couple of times. Yep.
I
But at
don't,
that point, we're acknowledging that someone could use it permanently as a space. And maybe that's okay.
I don't necessarily see a precedential effect here, though, because, again, we always have the policy, and I mean, the policy, we want to encourage the community to use the space. That's been,
So maybe as long as people are good stewards to the building, they can use it as long as they'd like, and that's
yeah, I'm not.
implicitly what
you
the
know,
policy
well,
is.
Again, I guess, whether we're defining temporary as 1 month, 6 months, 2 years, as long as it's not having some detrimental effect on something, I don't know that I see I don't see how anybody like claims squatters' rights, to use absolutely the wrong term for what's
No, and I'm
happening
not
here.
worried about that. I'm just worried, just making sure we're thinking things through.
No,
and whether
I
it's
appreciate
appropriate.
it. It's a good conversation to have.
I'm just wondering if there's ever been a conflict of use, like on a Sunday, of more than,
Todd said there has been.
Yeah.
a couple.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
There's been
I
a
missed
couple of
it.
times. I
I
mean, can
blinked out a little
can you
bit.
think of any?
Drama productions?
Yep.
We've had drama productions. There has occasionally been an issue with parking. If we have a large event, both in the gym and here, parking can get kind of tight. We have the gravel road races that happen, and they've been very understanding with that. The gravel stays back and they stay over here. The primary conflict has been drama.
And they have just
They've
basically not
happily
used the
said
facility
that-
on those days.
Yeah.
I just want to understand the problem that we're trying to solve, to make sure whatever the solution we come up with.
I think as a board, we need to provide the superintendent and building administrator and principal some kind of guidance that, yeah, it's okay for someone to use it as long as they'd like, or no, at some point, the intent is that use should be temporary unless there's specific criteria being met, such as, basketball and kids.
And how
Do you wanna-
temporary is temporary.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
do you, or any combination of people, want to take a crack at drafting something in writing that you think would speak to it, or?
I mean, I'm not overly concerned with the continued usage if no one else is, as long as we've discussed it, and that's fine, and we've given the superintendent basically the voice saying that we're kind of, sort of implicitly saying we're cool with permanent as long as all the other criteria are being met, that they're good stewards, and it's not costing us a lot of money, and they're amenable to changes when necessary, and all the other things that we already do.
Can I suggest maybe we just bring the current policy to the policy committee and maybe spend some time taking a look at it, and then maybe if there's a suggestion of how we can refine it or improve it,
Yeah.
we could bring it forward. If not, we just say that we think it's what it needs to be. Because I do think in this particular instance, this group that is the Mercy Church group, they want a permanent home that is their own. They do. It's just, there's a financial barrier there. So I don't think their intention in any way was to make us their permanent
No,
home.
of course not.
But what has happened, just very transparent, it started as like, oh, you have a big event, you want to do it on one event, and then, oh, well, gee, that worked pretty well, can we do a couple, and slowly it evolved from occasional use to, well, the building is never in use on Sunday, is it okay if we, and so that it was sort of, and it has always been the understanding that if at any time there was a school event, they have to understand they'll be bumped, and they have done that, so. So I think a review of the policy would make a lot of sense, and then bring it back to the board for discussion if there's something to discuss.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
that's
to do
great. I
that.
just wanted to make sure we had discussed it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
thanks for
always
that.
good
It's
to
been a
review
couple
it,
years.
yeah.
No, I mean, it's a valid, reasonable concern, and if there's anything that Todd or Dave, either of you feel is unclear about the guidance, we'd definitely bring it to my attention, and I'll make sure it gets, All right, school events.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Upcoming school events. You want to read them? I can read them.
I'll be happy to read them. January
read them.
13th, we have a PTA meeting, 6:30 to 8. That will be at the elementary school. January 16th is the staff PD day, no school for students. Monday, January 19th is MLK Day, no school. And then February 1st is the NES Hut Shot Big Jump Show. So those are the immediate events coming up, in addition to all the basketball and stuff that Sawyer talked about. That's going on.
And what's the big jump? Is that jump rope? Ooh,
It's big. It is big.
It is big.
yeah.
It is big.
And to the boosters, last year, we had the booth open, and that's the time to make some booster money, so.
There's not a single spot in the bleachers that is open.
Really?
Yep, it's a big jump rope.
Which
So they've been
is
practicing.
mostly
Oh, yeah.
Nancy
I don't know what my
Miller
kid-
and tons of the staff take part in.
No
It's just
kidding.
amazing. Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Have to put it on my calendar?
There's also a demo team. Yeah, so.
Yeah, Newmarket has been at the vanguard of competitive jump roping for many years. One of the students who lives on my street has been to national events, and it's, everybody has their thing. Jumping rope is apparently ours. I couldn't prove it by me, but
I love it. I couldn't jump now, but I used
yep.
to love it when I was a kid.
I actually forgot to ask this. So do we have a PD or day or something on town election day in March, or is that a normal school day?
March 10th is a
Yes.
PD day.
Okay, all right.
But
So
there is no voting in the schools. It's at the town hall.
Okay.
Our calendar aligns with all of the SST schools, and many of them use their schools for voting, and that's why.
Okay. All right. So we are finished with our discussion items. So there's a couple of generous donations that we want to acknowledge. Todd, if you'd.
Sure. One is a very substantial donation to our music department. An estimated value of $4,600. It was a donation of some musical instruments, 2 trombones, a tenor sax, 6 clarinets, 2 flutes, 8 trumpets, 2 alto saxophones. The donation came from Stephanie Jenkins, so it's a wonderful donation. For those who haven't seen the growing band that we have, there's a lot more kids, and obviously with that, a lot more instruments. So this is a wonderful donation.
And then we have one from NCEP.
Oh, yes, that's right. And hold on, I'm trying to get to it. $400. Becky Cole is hosting a genocide awareness speaker from Rwanda, I believe. And the NCEP donated $400 for that speaker to come. And I believe it's April 2nd, thank you.
All right. So that wraps up the donations. Action items. Would somebody make a motion to approve the manifest? Somebody being Lonnie.
Doing your job. I hope you're watching, Phil. I move to approve the manifest for January 8th, 2026, in the amount of $1,221,925.59.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Jeff. I wasn't ready to write these down. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are unanimous, 5-0. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from our December 18th, 2025 meeting.
Do you want to combine them?
Actually, yeah, that meeting as well as the December 22nd short meeting that we had.
I so move.
Thank you, Kathy.
I second Kathy's motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Did anybody see anything that requires revision or?
There was one item that I now can't find, so, yeah, I apologize. I should have noted it.
Do you want to take a second to look, or?
It's so minor, it's just kind of an incomplete sentence, didn't really.
If you would like to just send an email to
Yeah.
Ellen, and she can fix that.
Will do.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, including Gary's correction to be detailed later, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we are unanimous, 5-0. I'd accept a motion to approve the program of studies for 2026-2027 as detailed by Principal Korman earlier in the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Lonnie.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Andy, for laying it all out and presenting it to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're unanimous, 5-0. All right. I'd accept a motion to approve.
I found my,
All right, go.
sorry. For the record, under committee updates, item 1, the last bullet point says Gary Swanson added, he would like to add an agenda item to discuss long-term use. And it should be long-term use of the school facilities.
Very, very topical.
Yes, wasn't it?
Thank you,
I should
Gary.
have seen that.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve policy IK and policy IKF in your second read.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathy. Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor of approving policies IK and IKF as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are unanimous. So we do actually have to go through, and approve the draft warrant articles. I'm not sure if we actually have to vote on the ones that are boilerplate.
No, you actually, these are all listed, so you don't have to do number 1, because that's voting on officers, so you can
Yep.
skip that. 2 is the operating budget, so you do need, so 2 through
2
7.
through 6, I think, right?
2 through 6. 7 is the.
Oh, actually, we do need to vote on
7 is,
Need
7.
yeah, 'cause
7,
you're
don't
proposing
8,
it.
yeah.
All right. So I'd accept a motion to approve draft warrant article number 2, the operating budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Lonnie. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are unanimous, 5-0. I'd accept a motion to approve draft warrant article 3, which is the collective bargaining agreement with the Support Staff Association.
So moved.
Thank you, Gary.
Second.
Thank you, Lonnie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're unanimous, 5-0.
You don't need to do 4.
Okay, yeah, 4 is also boilerplate. I'd accept a motion to approve draft warrant article number 5, which is the capital reserve fund contribution for the health insurance capital reserve.
I move to approve said warrant article.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I will second it.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're unanimous. I'd accept a motion to approve draft warrant article number 6, which is the $100,000 contribution to the building improvement and renovation capital reserve fund.
So moved.
Thank you, Lonnie.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And lastly, not lastly for all voting items, lastly for the warrant, I'd accept a motion to approve draft warrant article number 7, which is the article to harmonize the terms for the moderator, clerk, and treasurer of the school district with the corresponding terms those officers have for the town.
Very good. I'll so move.
Thank you, Kathy.
Couldn't repeat that one.
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just under discussion, I'd like to point out that Chris Hawkins has been promised that for the last 8 years, so it's good to finally.
We
This
deliver.
one's for you, Chris.
All right, we're
You only had to ask
unanimous.
7 times.
5-0.
And Terry.
I would accept a motion to approve the recommendation on the contract to do the roof replacements.
So moved.
Thank you, Lonnie.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. Any comments, questions? Thank you, Dave, for lining up a good price on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're unanimous, 5-0. And I was remiss before, thank you, Bryant, for all the work that you put into getting the budget and everything else together, as well as everyone who was involved in negotiating the Support Staff Association contract. It was a long road, but we got there. I'd accept a motion, because this donation's over $1,000, to approve the donation of the musical instruments.
Motion to approve the donation.
Thank
Second.
you, Jeff. Thank you, Gary. And thank you so much to the generous individual who donated all of that for the program.
Well-
Stephanie Jenkins.
Stephanie Jenkins, thank you so much. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Just a
5.
question on that one. Do you usually send out thank you notes or anything for
Yes.
something like that? Okay.
In this case, we'll have the kids put like a mixtape together. It's going to be fire. All right. We have, I don't think we had this under discussion, but I'd accept a motion to approve the Newmarket Elementary School field trip to the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Mass. On March the 27th.
It's fifth grade.
Go ahead.
So moved.
I'll second and note that all out-of-state field trips need to be approved by the board per policy.
Yes, we don't do this just for the fun of it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. We're unanimous, 5-0. All right, I would accept a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3 subsection B.
B
I
or
so
C?
move.
B, okay. To discuss an employee matter. right?
Correct, yep.
But we have to be more specific.
Okay, well,
We've been chastised before.
all right. To discuss an employee matter. So I have a motion by Kathy.
Second.
Do I have a second by Jeff? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are unanimous.
Oh, we have to do it by roll
Sorry,
call
we have to
vote.
do roll call vote, I'm sorry. Lonnie?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are unanimous, 5-0. Channel 8, we will not be coming back on camera after this, so thank you, everybody, for coming, and good evening.